Hi everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and I'm here to share my latest mini album, which is 8.5 by 8.5 by 2.5 inches, and it has 4 pocket pages in it. This is featuring Antarctic from Stamperia, and I always have that's a mouthful, hard for me to say. So I'm going to share with you my cover, and I'm going to go over a few of the features here, and then we're going to dig in and see what's on the inside. So I want to point out the filigree and the charms that are on the cover. If you purchase your collections from us, depending on your purchase amount, we toss in some of these with every purchase. So we've got these snowflakes and we've got these silver filigree pieces for the corner, and I really think they add a lot to it. There's one here, here, and here. And this is the cover. I'm going to tilt it so you can see some of the dimension that I've created. So with the penguin, I have double cut that. So I did use 2 12 by 12s and 2 8 by 8s. And because I did that, that allowed me to have a second copy of this image so that I could pop it up with chipboard. And then over here is a piece of chipboard that's from the chipboard pack, which is something I also used. This is chipboard, this is chipboard. These are cut aparts, and this is just a scrap that's layered here. On the side here, we have another piece of chipboard here, which I think that turned out cute. And I just love these guys. They're so cute. They're supposed to be baby wolves, and I just think they're adorable. So these are 2 pieces of the chipboard from the chipboard pack. And then on the very back, I've featured 2 cut aparts and a chipboard piece, which is the polar bear. And this is a cut apart, and I've just backed it with some paper. And it's puffed up because I put some chipboard pieces behind it. Okay, this ribbon is just for my stash. I just happened to have it. It was actually from a gift from somebody, and it was such a pretty ribbon I couldn't get rid of it. So I've been saving it forever, and it was a very small piece of ribbon, but was big enough for this project, and the color was just perfect. So with that, I'm gonna, and by the way, I tucked the ribbon behind this cut apart, and then the ribbon back here is behind these 2 cut aparts and this chipboard piece. So that's how it's adhered to the cover, which I did not cover in the cover tutorial itself. Okay, so here's the inside. Right here, I've got a cut apart that's cardstock backed, and then I also put some chipboard behind it. And when I say chipboard, let me show you what I mean. I take my leftover chipboard when I'm making a cover, I stash it, and then I use it to pop these elements up. You can also use foam if you like. I prefer chipboard because it's rigid, and that is a secret that I learned from Ginger Rupp, the amazing Ginger Rupp. She's the one that told me that, and I was like, oh, I really like it because it's rigid, and I just think it holds up better over time. Over here on page 1, I've got one of the cut aparts backed with cardstock on a flap, and it opens this way, and I adhered this only on 3 of the 4 sides so that I have a little pocket here. And then this is one of the cut aparts from the 8 by 8 collection. So I think it's a perfect little spot to hide your little journaling. You've got, this is a 4.5 or 4 by 4 space here, so it's very easy to put a 3.5 by 3.5 or 3 by 3 photos on the top and bottom. And then, like I said, a little journaling card so that you can describe what's in the photos that are actually adhered here. Over here, I've got just a nice photo flap, and then this is the base. And if it were me, I'm gonna find something, I would probably be putting my photos here and maybe here, maybe a 4 by 6 and a 3 by 3, and leave this exposed. But it's entirely up to you. Inside, I have a completely lined insert. Now, as I mentioned before, I used 2 12 by 12s and 2 8 by 8s, and then I also used a die pack for this album. And this is a very simple album. It is perfect for a beginner. So if you've been watching the videos and you just haven't had the nerve to jump in, now's the time. This is a very simple, it's very beautiful, but it's very simple. All the elements on the pages are very simple. Sometimes I have layers where I have a flap and then a pocket on a flap and then a flap on top of the pocket, on top of the flap. This is very simple. In the next page, I've got these two pockets. There's a pocket with a stop, and then this is what I call a pass-through pocket, which allows us to have this very large photo mat in it. And then this is a pocket, and here I've just got a bifold. So again, I've featured one of the cut-aparts. This is the front, this is the back, and I added this 2-inch ribbon because I want to see some of this card when it's in the pocket. Otherwise, it would have been down to about here, and I just would have seen this much of the top of the card or cut apart. So we've got that. Sorry, it's getting stuck on something. There we go. And then we've got this large photo mat. And actually, I did not cover the back, but there are enough scraps that you could cover the back of these large photo mats. I just did not do that because I thought you guys might be anxious to see this. Now here, I featured one of the 8x8s because from a scale perspective, I think it's just right. The 12x12, the bear is so large, it wouldn't fit on one of the 8x8 pages. So I took an 8x8 image and I split it in half to 2 flaps. So we've got a flap that goes up, and then I did some color blocking here and a flap that goes down. Okay, and then here I've added one of those chipboard pieces, and then here's more of the cut aparts that are left. And again, another large photo mat that's covered front and back, which is very rare for me. And because it's such a simple album, I could cover both the front and back. A lot of times my flaps are so complex that I use all my paper on my flaps and I have hardly anything left for the inserts. Now, this is the centerpiece, and this is really what I designed the whole album from. I started here and then everything else came from it. So I knew I liked this image, but more importantly, what I really, really wanted to make sure that I got together was this image of the map. So I started with these 4 pieces, and then the rest of the design fell out of that. So this is from the 12x12 collection, and I just cut it apart into these 6x6 squares, and that looks wonderful. And then this is also from the 12x12 collection. And then it also opens out left to right. So this is a perfect example of where the pattern on the paper is dictating the design of the album. That's not always the case, but it's certainly the case here. Okay, page 4 and 5, another large photo mat. And then I did the same thing here where this is an 8x8 and I split it. And then here's a piece of chipboard, which I made as a tuck spot, but it's very easy to put a large photo here and then say a smaller photo here. It's a little too small, but like a 3x3 would fit perfect here, and a 4x6. Okay, and then of course the top flap and the bottom flap are large photo mats. Okay, here we are to the double pocket again. So I've got the bifold insert. So that's the front of the cut apart, that's the back of the cut apart, and then I add these 2-inch strips just so that when I put it in the pocket, it doesn't completely disappear. This is a cut apart backed by cardstock, and then additionally I've added a layer of chipboard, and then also another large photo mat that goes in this pocket. And again, I did not cover the back of it, but there is enough paper to cover the back. Another large photo mat. Oops, it's supposed to show up like that. Here's our last page. We've got the cut apart from the 12x12 collection. On the flip side, we've got a hidden pocket with some journaling space. I've added a piece of chipboard as well as a cut apart that's paper backed, and it's easy to put some photos here and here. This is a 6x6 panel that opens left, and then also I left this open-ended. So that is page 8. I like these little hidden pockets. I think they're pretty. Okay, and then this is the inside. This is paper backed or cardstock backed cut apart, and then it's also popped with chipboard. So you can easily put photos above and below that. And then on the very back, I just want to go over that again. There's 2 cut aparts, a piece of the die cuts, and then this is a cardstock back cut apart on top of chipboard. And that is it for the Arctic, Antarctic. And again, I can't stress enough, this is a perfect album for beginners. Very simple. It's either it's a flap or a pocket. There's just nothing complex about this. The patterns can be complex, but the construction process itself is pretty darn straightforward. So the last thing I want to share with you is I did something a little different on the pocket pages themselves, and I mentioned this throughout the tutorial. I normally have an 8x8 pocket page, a finished 8x8 pocket page, which means I start with an 8.5 by 8.5, and then I put those 2 things together. I score 1/2 inch on the 8.5 inch side, and then put those 2 things together to make the pocket page. I actually made these 8 1/8 by 8 1/8, and you'll see that reflected in the cut list. And I'll continue to remind you of that throughout the tutorials. And I did that because I didn't want to have to trim a sliver off all my 8x8 images. So I tried it. It's something different. The cut list supports the 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 pocket page. And by the way, that's the only thing that changes. It did not change the hinge, did not change the cover or the spine. It only changed the pocket page. And I like the idea because you don't have to trim anything off your finished 8x8 collection pack page, especially if you're doing this, right? So this is just a finished 8x8. I didn't have to trim anything off of it. I laid it on and I got my perfect little border. So I think it's a great idea. Somebody mentioned something to me in a comment that made me think of doing it. And I thought, wow, why hadn't I thought of that sooner? I don't know why, but it's perfect. Although the flip side is I've gotten really used to 8x8. And so when I was making my flaps to adhere that are supposed to be the same size, I kept cutting them too short. So if you're not used to doing 8x8s, I would wholly recommend adjusting to 8 1/4 by 8 1/4, and then you never have to trim a sliver off your 8x8 collection packs. It's the right thing to do. I don't know why I didn't think of it on my own, but I want to thank the person who mentioned it in one of my YouTube comments. It's a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner. It seems so simple, but I hadn't. And that's why we're all here, right? We all learn from each other. So thanks for joining me and checking out the latest mini album here at Scrap and Create. If you click on the description, you're going to see, first of all, material list, which lists how many packs of each size I used. And then if you continue to scroll through, you'll see the cut list. And again, I'd like to thank you for joining us here at Scrap and Create. We love to have you here, whether you can show up with us or not. You're welcome to join us. And I also want to remind those of you, especially those of you that are new to the channel, that all our tutorials are free. We have, I think, over 55 complete projects available for you to enjoy. Everything is set up by a playlist. So if you know the name of the paper, if you search for that, it'll bring up the playlist, and the playlist will cover the build of the base album, every single page in the album, and you can build it from start to finish. And if you find a tutorial available on Scrap and Create and you start a project, I can guarantee that we will not take the project offline. It is there for you to enjoy and use, whether you shop with us or not. It's free, so please enjoy and share with and subscribe, and you'll be notified of new projects when they're available. So again, if you start a project with us, you can finish. We have no intent of ever bringing it down. If anything ever happens, it's not on our part. It might be something YouTube does, but we won't take it offline. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, so like I said, we have lots of projects. Our paper lines that we feature are Graphic 45, Stamperia, and Ciao Bella. So if you like those papers, take a look around at our channel and you'll find some inspiration. And lastly, I'd like to invite you to come over to Facebook and take a look at what's going on over there. We've got some of our viewers and customers sharing their projects over there on Facebook. All we ask is that you limit your shares with projects that feature papers that we carry, even if you don't buy it from us, just papers that we carry in our shop, which again are Graphic 45, Stamperia, and Ciao Bella. Thanks again for tuning in and spending time with us here at Scrap and Create. This is Daphne. I'll see you soon.